Hello, welcome back. We are going to start discussing the third topic of our RHCSA video series. I have prepared a file for that as usual. The file is 2.txt. Now, in this section, we're going to talk about the objectives of the RHCSA certification exam. Now, these are the topics that I have listed directly from the Red Hat website. Now, I showed you earlier some topics. Those were around 22 topics, and these are the topics which are in much more detail from the Red Hat website. As you can see here, understanding and use of the essential tools, like how to access the shell prompt, then how to use the IO redirection, the grep command, the regular expressions. So they have given very similar things in much more detail. So are we going to cover all these things in much more detail? Obviously we are going to cover. How much of detail, you will see that. Then the next topic, as you can see, is here about the operating system, the boot process, the reboot process. These are all the examination objectives. When they talk about examination objectives, they are telling us that when an RHCSA person is going to go out in the market, he will be knowing all these topics thoroughly, and that is what they are going to test you on. So let us now, I'm just going to browse through these topics. In fact, what I will do, I will show you. Let us go to the let us go to Google, and as I have already searched here, let us search on RHCSA exam. You will find out that the very first website is from the Red Hat website themselves. Let us go and see what these RHCSA objectives are. Earlier this exam used to be called as RHCT, Red Hat Certified Technician, and that exam was on the version 5. This is on version number 6. The overview is something that I have already given you. You can also go through this. In fact, I will highly encourage you to go through this URL here. It is a performance-based exam. What they mean by the performance-based exam is, you can see that only authorized training partners can take the exam, as we have already seen. The scores and reporting, that is also something that they have mentioned here. They have mentioned that it will take 3 US business days, but as I said, in our experience, it usually takes 1 business day. The format of the exam that we have already seen is 2.5 hours of exam. And the preparation, they always recommend that you go through some kind of an official training here. As you can see, you should go through some kind of an official training. And this is the training that we are going through. This is kind of a crash course exam cramp training video series that we have. But if you do not have any prior experience on Red Hat or any Unix system, then this video series may not be fully enough for you. So this is what it is, and the exam objectives, these are the objectives that I have kind of copied from them. So let me go back to my thing. As you can see, configuration of local storage is one of the major objectives there. They also talk about configuration of the file systems. Their main focus is on various types of file systems: ext2, ext3 and ext4. Excuse me for the pronunciation there. And those are the different types of file systems, but recently the ext4 file system is the most prevalently used, and that is what we will be using in our discussion also. Then deploying and configuring the system, this is where the networking part comes in. This is very, very important from our certification point of view, because as we will discuss a little later, that if you cannot bring your server, your machine in the network, you will not be able to install anything. You will not be able to upload, download anything from any of the servers that are provided in the exam environment, and it is obviously guaranteed to be a non-passing kind of an exam. So configuring the network is like the very basic thing that you should know from the RHCSA exam point of view. So that is there. Obviously user administration is an important task, as we have seen. Security, so I will not go into the details of it. My main focus is to come to the next section, which is the assumptions. Now, since this is a video series, it is a very short series, not more than specific number of hours. We are going to assume that you have some prior knowledge of this operating system. So these are the assumptions that I have made, that you need to know some system administration or network administration knowledge from any other operating system. Most of us, we have the knowledge from the Windows operating system, so that is going to be helpful. If you don't have that knowledge, then this video series may be kind of very difficult or maybe advanced for you. So that is one assumption that I have done. Then familiarity with a Unix operating system, any of the Unix flavors, whether it's an IBM AIX or Solaris from Oracle, or HP UX from Hewlett Packard, any of these or any other operating system or distributions, for example CentOS, Fedora, any of those will do, but you must have some familiarity. And when I say you should be familiar with those operating systems, I mean by that you should know some basic commands. For example, file or directory related commands, at least you should be very conversant with that, rm, cp, cat, tail, head, and all that stuff. And I would also suggest that you should know vi very well. Do not depend on any kind of a nano. There is another what should I say, editor, another editor called as nano in many of the Unix operating systems, which is very much like notepad. Do not depend on nano. It may not be there on your examination, so you must know vi very well, very thoroughly. I have seen people who are not familiar with vi. They make mistakes, and then the configuration files have mistakes and the configuration doesn't happen properly. So make sure that you know vi. We are not going to cover these things in our video series, so I'm going to assume that you know all these things. Another assumption that I'm going to make is that you should also know some networking concepts, starting from what is an IP address. So I should not be telling you that it is a 32-bit IP address with some formats that 192, 168. So you should be aware of those things. You should be aware of what a gateway is to communicate with a outside network. You should know what netmask is. So these networking concepts should be known to you, and I'm assuming that you know them because you have the prior system administration or the network administration knowledge from any other operating system. Then the concepts related to user accounts, the groups, the permissions, those concepts should also be known to you, and a concept of a central authentication. If you are coming from a Windows background, then central authentication is done by the Active Directory, and here we are going to do that using LDAP, the Light Directory Access Protocol. And that concept should be known to you. We will be discussing the LDAP and how to configure all those things, but the concept should be known to you that the central authentication happens. So these are certain basic assumptions. So if you are not familiar with these things, this video series is going to be a little difficult for you to understand, and therefore I would highly recommend that you don't go through this. It is not gonna make sure that you have or you get success in the RHCSA exam. So my main topic of discussion is my assumptions and not the actual objective of the exams from the website. You can still go and take a look at them, but the main thing is to make sure that all of you guys have this knowledge before you jump into this. In fact, I think I have missed a couple of things there. I'm gonna make certain assumptions also there, that you have a strong knowledge of the file system. So if you are coming from the Windows background, the partitioning concepts, the file system, the C drive, the D drive, all those things, those should be well known to you. And another important thing is the concept of a web server or the FTP server. If you're again coming from the Windows background, then the IIS web server knowledge would be good enough, or the IIS's FTP server should also be good enough. So these are my assumptions. Make sure that you know them, and now we will actually jump into the real system administration and the RHCSA related topics. So I won't delay too much, but I wanted to make sure that you know these topics before we jump in. So I'm gonna again see you in the next section. Until then, I'm hoping that you are taking notes and you are ready to jump into the real topics of system administration. So I will talk to you soon.